How do you sort out the so-called jargon from real-world practices that work? Do the members of your organization find some business or technology advice utterly confusing? Welcome to Real Talk with Sam Holcman. In this program, we set the record straight, and in terms that business people and technology people can understand. Now, here is your host, Sam Holcman.
Welcome to this edition of Real Talk. I'm Sam Holcman. Thanks for joining me on this particular broadcast. And this broadcast is regarding artificial intelligence and data. And a trend that we actually investigated over the past 6 months or so. I'm not sure what the correct name of this thing is, so I'm going to use a phrase that sort of says it all. Data poisoning. And what data poisoning is something, frankly, we've probably all done. And that's when you're asked for information, filling out a form of some kind. You just don't tell the truth because you're looking at it and saying, why do they need my mother's maiden name or whatever it is, even your first and last name? It doesn't seem to be relevant. Now, if it's something like an email address that you are required to put in to get some information, from a website or something like that, and in order to get that information, you need to have a response, then frankly, the only piece of information that needs to be, in quote, honest, unquote, is that. But let's go further. When it comes to artificial intelligence, all of that stuff is polluting or poisoning the AI general large language models that are out there. Now, we don't know what the extent of this is, but I can give you a data point in our own organization, and I want to be very careful here because of the proprietary nature of our own information. We have an extremely large meaning well over 500,000 email addresses for people that have contacted us in enterprise architecture or business architecture or soft skills. I won't tell you the exact number because I don't want anybody to know that, frankly. But what we did recently, and recently meaning recently, is we actually looked and did a validation of that list to see whether or not those email addresses at this point in time were correct. Now, what does this have to do with artificial intelligence? We all know that there is data decay rather than just data poisoning. In other words, people leave, or when it comes to generalized email addresses from services that provide you with email addresses for free, we know that a lot of people just keep generating email addresses, whatever that free service is. So this is just one example of either malicious or unintended, depending on where you believe this is happening, data that is polluted. And of course, with AI, it builds upon itself. So if you can't figure out why that application or website needs that information, I'm sure a lot of you, because I know I do it myself, is I'll type in ABC or QRX or WXYZ or whatever it is, or 123 Main Street, because it just isn't relevant for that particular situation. Now, the AI engines don't know about this because there could be a real 123 Main Street or something like that. That goes also for surveys and things like that. You hear these pollings, and of course we know the situation is also rampant on sites that do recommendations, and whether they're positive recommendations or otherwise. All of that is polluted. Well, let's just think about that. And again, in this concept where generalized information is learning about things through generalized information that is either poison or polluted, what does that mean to your data structures? That's why we continually tell our clients and others that large language models are just fool's gold. It's the engine that we have to think about. And what we need is what we refer to is enterprise augmented information, EAI. using data structures that you have in your own organization that you'll actually enhance, modify, and embellish as you move forward. And the industry has taken that term that we have talked about for quite some time and labeled it small language models, which I find kind of interesting. So once again, buyer beware, caveat emptor, be careful about what you're seeing. And if I can summarize what all of this means, it's the human desire for ease of doing things. It's the thirst for doing things easy. And let's suggest that that is another AI trap. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk. Be sure to join your host, Sam Holcman, again for another edition of our program. We'll have more real topics of discussion then.